There's already trouble in paradise for Jonah. Esme's jealous, but there's more to it, and Yael's looking for a change. It's the last semester for the seniors and the first episode of Degrassi Next Class Season 4. Hello, I'm Carrie, and welcome to Degrassi Corner. And in this video, we're talking about Next Class episode 401, Back to Reality. Now, we're picking things back up as the students return to Degrassi from winter break. And the first thing we learn is that over winter break, Grace and Jonah officially became a couple. And I'm fine with this. We don't need to see every single action play out on screen, especially given the fact that we could see this coming from a mile away at the end of season 3. So it turns out that they're keeping their relationship a secret, but at the same time, both Grace and Jonah are keeping said relationship a secret for different reasons. Grace, she just values privacy. However, Zoe and Winston get in Grace's head just a little bit and mention maybe Jonah is embarrassed to be seen with you in public. Grace asks Jonah about that, and we find out that Jonah wants to keep their relationship a secret because he doesn't want Frankie to freak out or to do something to hurt herself, especially after everything that has happened with Maya. People are a little more on edge in season 4, especially about the mental health of other people. But then later, Grace overhears a conversation that Frankie's having with someone else, and Frankie, for some reason, seems to think that just because Jonah said hello to her, that they might be able to get back together. So that pisses Grace off. She confronts Jonah about him not wanting to go public with their relationship. And then later, we get this scene where Jonah tries to make up for it by doing a public declaration of his feelings for Grace, singing a song for her in front of a bunch of students, and it also turns out that Frankie witnesses this entire situation as well. This is one of those storylines where it doesn't necessarily captivate my interest watching this. I'm not really a grown-up shipper. I think I've warmed up to the idea of them based on the fact that they have built their relationship through a really strong friendship. But when I'm thinking about season 4 after I watch all 10 episodes and thinking about the best plots from the season, this one is not going to be top of mind. From a situational standpoint, it is pretty interesting, though, the idea of a relationship that is private. And by the way, it is pretty much a red flag if you're in a relationship with somebody and they don't want to tell people about you. But at the same time, in Grace's defense, at the very beginning, when she just wanted her privacy, it is weird that we have this expectation of people to post everything about their lives on social media. So it's weird when you realize that someone might be dating someone, but there's basically no trace of their relationship online. The best part of this plot is actually, of course, the hickey, everybody making fun of that, and the last scene where we see Grace with that deer in headlights look as soon as Jonah whips out that guitar and starts playing for her in public. And I really love the end of the scene where we see Grace and Jonah in the foreground kissing, and then the camera focuses to the background where we see Frankie in the distance watching what's happening. I thought that was a really cool way for them to basically hand the baton off to Frankie, because they're going to transition this into Frankie's storyline in the next episode. And we'll see the beginning of the Frankie-Esme friendship in the next episode. But speaking of Esme, she has a storyline in this episode. Esme is not really happy with the fact that Maya is back at Degrassi, and everyone seems to have their attention, especially Zig, geared toward Maya and how Maya is doing. Zig decides he's going to work with Maya on an art project, so in order to make Zig jealous, Esme decides she's going to do her project with Saad. She's actually going to strip down naked and have Saad do a portrait of her that way. Esme, Zig, and Saad all end up getting in trouble in class, and they all get detention. In detention, Esme and Zig get into a little argument. Esme's still upset that Zig is defending Maya, and we find out that even after all this time has passed since Maya attempted suicide, Esme is still traumatized by that night. She cannot get the image of Maya's limp body out of her mind, because of course it reminds her so much of how she ended up finding her own mother, who passed away in a very similar circumstance. Oh, and also Saad, poor Saad, he ends up getting dragged into some nonsense here. He ends up telling Esme while they were doing their art project that he actually let Maya into Degrassi on the night that she tried to attempt suicide. So Esme throws Saad under the bus, tells Zig that Saad was the one who let her into Degrassi that night. So Zig, he's angry. He decides decides he's going to confront Saad later. He ends up breaking Saad's camera, and then Saad decides to break Zig's face. He punches him square in the face, and then he walks away. Esme's song is the most complex, yet also divisive character currently on Degrassi. People either really hate her because they think that she's just an awful human being and she's the villain of the show. And by the way, I don't believe that she is actually a villain. To say that a character on Degrassi, or that let me rephrase, a primary character on Degrassi is not a villain, because Degrassi does not operate that way. The primary cast, all of these characters are capable of super problematic behavior, but in the end, these characters can redeem themselves. And there's also the side of people who love Esme and are defending her because they know that she indeed has a mental illness. And I don't know how they can make it more clear that she is suffering from some type of mental illness, given everything that we've seen from Esme since she stepped onto Next Class in season 1. Esme has clear abandonment issues. We saw that with Miles, and we're seeing that with Zig now in season 4. And in season 3, she mentioned that she's been in and out of therapy since she was a child. And of course, we have the death trauma that she's dealt with. Finding her mother dead is just such a complex situation to think about, because I know for even me, her behavior rubs me the wrong way, but at the same time, mentally, she's not at a place where she has self-control over her actions. And she also doesn't have a support system to help her out or to guide her in the direction to get her help. Because we see either with strangers who label her as crazy, or they're busy slut-shaming her because of how liberal she is sexually, or her behavior ends up pushing the people that are close to her away from her. We saw that with Miles in season 1, and we're going to see that again with Zig here in season 4. You know, and Esme, she's reminding me quite a bit of Eli Goldsworthy circa season 10. Not saying that they have the same mental illness diagnosis, but if you look at them both dealing with mental illness, both dealing with a death trauma, both of them engaging in manipulative and emotionally toxic behavior. So this is definitely going to be a case where we see Esme's behavior become increasingly intense and probably become increasingly dangerous, not just to herself, but to other people as well. And the hope is that this pushes her in the direction of getting her help. And finally, the third plot in this first episode of season 4, Yael. There's this big fair going on. There's a bouncy house. Everyone's excited about the bouncy house, except for Yael, because she doesn't want to get into it because she does not like her chest. The size of her chest makes her feel physically uncomfortable. So Lola takes her shopping, gets her a brand new bra. They hit up the bouncy house. They have fun. But then Yael starts to feel uncomfortable again when she's told that Baz, VJ, and Hunter were all staring at her chest. So then she goes back to the department store and she gets herself a binder. A binder, my friends. The last time a binder was mentioned on Degrassi, all the way back in season 10, Mr. Adam Torres, by the way. Not saying that Yael is going to be a trans male, but this is the beginning of the gender identity storyline that people have been talking about, and I'm really excited to see where this goes, because the way that this is different from Adam Torres, Adam came onto the show as a trans male. He didn't have any questions about his identity because he already knew who he was. Yael's in the stages of actually trying to figure out her identity, whether or not she actually identifies as a male or a female or both or neither. So it was really great to see in that final scene where she puts the binder on, she looks at herself in the mirror and she smiles because for once she loves what she sees, and she actually feels comfortable with her body. What are your thoughts on this first episode of Degrassi Next Class Season 4? Leave them in the comments section below, and also feel free to subscribe to Degrassi Corner for all of the Degrassi Next Class news, reviews, and more.